Seeing none, we will declare this meeting open. I'd like to introduce your stage members for tonight's meeting. On your far right, Selectman Mark Akabuchi, Selectman Jim LeBlanc, Selectman Bill Conley, Chairman David Sargent. Mike Jakonski is a member of the board also. He is ill tonight, got a little touch of the flu, I guess, and he's unable to join us tonight, but just want to mention him as well. Also on stage, your town solicitor is Attorney Bob Gibbons. On your far side is your clerk stenographer Julie Kilbride, and I'm John Hogan, and I will be your moderator this evening. This night is not starting well. I'd be amiss if I didn't mention our town administrator, Michael Ward, as well. Thank you, Michael. Finance Committee members over in the far corner, Chairman Jim Tumalo, Attorney William McGrail, Barry Whitney, Edward Powers, Bob Latini, and Ellen O'Toole. I'd like to have a moment of silence at this point for a few former town employees who are unfortunately in the last 12 months are no longer with us. Former school committee member, town solicitor, and Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Court, James Donahue. Former Economic and Community Development Director, Owen McNamara. Member of the Council on Aging, Father Thomas Walsh. Member of the Housing Authority, John Gallagher. Two teachers passed away, John Philbin and Barbara O'Toole. And your gas and plumbing inspector, Fred DeLorey. If we could have a moment for them at this time. Thank you. The only people now in the hall are registered voters of the town of Clinton or those who have been given prior permission by myself to observe the proceedings from the visitor section in the back of the balcony. To speak tonight, please be recognized and go to one of the microphones. Please state your name and address before speaking. All proposed amendments should be presented to me in writing. Please note personalities in your remarks and try to keep your comments to the article under discussion. The only hands that will be counted during hand votes are those from voters who are seated in the hall, so I encourage all standees to take a seat. Unless I hear an objection, I will dispense with the formal reading of the warrant, as you should all have copies in front of you now. And with that, we can proceed to Article 1.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to receive the reports of the town officers and to act thereon.
Second.
Article number 1 have been made and seconded to receive town reports. Questions, comments, or discussion? There being none. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Motion is passed unanimously. Again, thank you. You do need to raise your card, put your card in your hand when you raise your hand. I see most of you are doing that already, but it just as a reminder. Article number 2.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to fix the salaries, the composition of all elected officials of the town as provided by Chapter 41, Section 108 of the Massachusetts General Laws. Said salaries of the composition to be effected from July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2016, and to raise and appropriate a sum of money therefore.
Second.
Article number 2 have been made and seconded dealing with salaries of elected officials in the town of Clinton. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from the current tax levy the sum of $36,963,403 and to appropriate and transfer from the certified free cash the sum of $300,600 416, and to appropriate and transfer the sum of $24,420, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $310,825 from the Ambulance Enterprise Fund, and to appropriate from the Ambulance Enterprise Fund the retained earnings, the sum of $37,744, and to appropriate and transfer the sum of $81,680, and raise and appropriate the sum of $2,496,721 from the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund, and to appropriate the transfer the sum of $29,425, and raise and appropriate the sum of $444,762 from the Rubbish Enterprise Fund, and to appropriate the transfer the sum of $25,000, and raise and appropriate the sum of $982,100 from the Landfill Enterprise Fund. Said sum to be used to defray the town charges from July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2016, as those appear in the Finance Committee report of recommendations.
Second.
Article number 3, have been made and seconded. This is your town budget for the next fiscal year starting July 1st. In the back of your warrant, you should have the budget there. We will do as we always do. We'll go over this department by department. If you have a question, comment, some question you would like to ask about it, proposed amendment, then you would make it when we go over that section. If you see something after we've passed your section, we will go back at the end for a catch-all for anything you may have missed at the time. Okay, the first, section 114, at the top of the budget section. Moderator, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Town Accountant, Board of Assessors, Town Treasurer, Tax Collector, Parking Fines Administrator, Town Solicitor, Town Clerk, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Zoning Board, Montechusett Planning Commission, Economic Development Office, Town Hall Custodian, Insurance Miscellaneous, next page, Police Department, Fire Department, Building Inspector, Gas and Plumbing Inspectors, Sealer of Weights and Measures, Electrical Inspector, Office of Emergency Management, Animal Control Officer, School Department, Public Works Department, Cemetery Department, Board of Health, Council on Aging, Veterans Affairs, Public Library, Parks and Recreation, Flower Field, Pensions Facility Department, Ambulance Enterprise Fund, top of the next page, Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, Rubbish Enterprise Fund. The Landfill Enterprise Fund. And you've got a summary down below that. Got your sources of funding listed there as well. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion about any line item in your town budget? This article is approved by the Finance Committee. Requires a hand vote and just a majority. If there is none, we'll take a vote at this time. All those in favor of Article 3 for the town budget, raise your card now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Sir.
Bill McGrail, Nugent Avenue. Mr. Moderator, I move for reconsideration.
Motion is made to reconsider Article 3.
Second.
There is a second to that motion. Okay, if you vote yes, you will vote to reopen the article. If you vote yes, you'll vote to reopen it. If you vote no, you will kill the article for this evening, and there'll be no further consideration of the article, it being that you have already passed it. Sir.
John Martin, 28 Orange Street. Mr. Moderator, I consider you a reasonable person, and when do you normally change your mind about something you've just decided on? I'd submit that you normally change your mind in the light of new information. Since we voted on this article, no new information has come to light. Therefore, I would submit that it would be irrational to reconsider this article without any new information. So I'm asking you to use your discretion as moderator to table this until after all spending articles have been considered. Will you do that, sir?
Will I do it? No.
Okay.
It's a parliamentary move that is allowed by our bylaws.
Okay.
So I can't do that. I mean, you can make a case for what you've just said to appease to people to not vote, to vote to reconsider if you have something you want to change. But where our bylaws allow this motion, I would be out of line stopping it.
Then, Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we table the reconsideration of the article until after all spending articles have been considered, as allowed in town meeting time, section 35.
What has to happen is we have to vote on the motion that's on the floor. That's not really I understand what you're trying to do, but we need to vote on what's there before. You can recommend for people to vote no on this if you like, but they still have to vote on that first because that motion is on the floor.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the motion is on the floor. However, I'm making a subsequent motion to move that article. No matter which way we vote on this, if we vote no to reconsider or we vote yes to reconsider and reopen it, once that other vote is done, this is closed.
That's correct.
So you've tied our hands.
I have not
under-
tied your
under
hands, sir.
Section
That is
35
tied, that is an allowable
Sir,
bylaw.
Sir, under section 35 of town meeting times, you as the moderator can entertain a motion to table this article until after all spending articles have been considered.
But we already have a motion on the floor, sir. We have to address that motion.
And I'm making another motion to move the reconsideration.
You're making a motion to withdraw the reconsideration?
No, to move the reconsideration. I'm making a motion to move the reconsideration until after all spending articles have been considered. It's up to you to entertain it or not, sir.
Okay. The motion then is to move the reconsideration until after the spending articles are dealt with.
Correct.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, okay. Any questions or comments or discussion on the motion? I'll explain what you'll be voting on first is whether to delay implementation of a motion to reconsider. You all got that? If you vote yes to what his motion is to delay the implementation of the motion to reconsider. If you vote no, then we will go right to the motion to reconsider. Anyone not clear about what you, again, if you vote yes, if you vote no, if you, the question is, do you want to reconsider now, or do you want to delay reconsideration until later? That's what we're really getting to. The motion is to delay implementation of the reconsideration. All those in favor of delaying the implementation of reconsidering the article, please indicate by raising your hand now, please. Your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Okay, that is defeated. So now we will go to the motion, the main motion, which was to reconsider Article 3. If you vote yes, we will reconsider it. If you vote no, we will not, and there'll be no further discussion of this article this evening. All those in favor of reconsidering Article 3 indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Article 3 is passed for the evening, and there'll be no further discussion of Article 3 during this meeting. Article 4.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer and the town collector to enter into a composition balance agreement with the banking institution for the fiscal year of 2016 pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53F of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Second.
Article number 4, have been made and seconded, dealing with the town treasurer and collector, requiring them to put monies that they collect in interest-bearing accounts. Questions, comments, or discussion under this annual article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,800, said sum to be expanded for the social service in accordance with the programs as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Second. Second.
Article number 5 have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $4,800 for social services programs. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir.
Mike Roberts on 4 Bourne Street. Just a clarification, would you explain what "or any other sum" means?
Mr. Ward?
That language is put in the notification of the warrant article as the warrant is posted, which allows the town meeting to change that amount. So the notice is that we're asking for $4,800 or any other sum as the town meeting may decide.
So how much money are we voting for? $4,800 or any amount?
Right now, the motion that has been put forward by the board is only $4,800. But that language of the notice of the article that was in the paper allows the town meeting to change it if you so wish. But right now, if this motion approved, it would only be for $4,800.
And by saying so, that means that the phrase "or any other sum" would be stricken from the article?
Yes, as part of the motion, that language is not included as part of the motion that Mr. Sargent just read.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Okay. So this article, as written, is for $4,800 unless amended up or down. Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 5? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 6.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000, said sum to be expanded as the town of Clinton shared to the Wachusett Health Education Action Team, WHEAT, Inc., which committee is delegated agency of the United Way, Tri-County.
Second.
Article number 6, dealing with the sum of $15,000 for what is best known as WHEAT. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under this article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 6.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize or reauthorize the use of resolvent funds containing receipts from the fees charged to users of the services provided by various boards, committees, departments, or offices of the town in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Second.
Article number 7 have been made and seconded involving the various boards, which I'm going to give to you now, their use of revolving funds. The state has asked that we vote on this at town meeting just to allow the revolving funds to exist. And they are for the gas and plumbing inspector for inspectional fees, and it can be up to $50,000. The Council on Aging revolving fund is up to $2,000. Town hall use up to $5,000. Old Home Day up to expenses $20,000. And Fuller Field for salaries and expenses $2,500. This is just giving them permission to use those revolving funds, is really what you're doing. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 7? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? The article is passed unanimously. Article 8.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate from the Assessor's Overlay Reserve Account the sum of $15,000, said sum to be used to continue the senior tax rebate program for the fiscal year of 2016.
Second.
Article number 8 have been made and seconded dealing with the senior tax rebate program. The sum of $15,000 allotted and this Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion? There. Raise your hand, please, sir. You want to come forward so we can all hear you? They can't hear you on TV unless you come forward.
Robert Timlage, Lancaster Road, Clinton. I have a question with the,
A little closer to the microphone, sir.
how's that?
A little closer.
A little closer?
There you go, thank you.
I'm gonna break it, I'm chewing gum. How's that?
Probably better. Let's try the other one over here.
I'm used to not being heard.
Okay.
Bob Timlage, Lancaster Road, Clinton. I have a question on the wording here, and it would apply to the last few articles you have. In Article 8, you say $15,000.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? That's working.
All right.
Okay, I'll repeat it. I have a question with the word.
We're only allowing 4 words per article, sir.
Okay, start at the beginning, right? I have a question on the wording.
If you say it, if you say it, now I'm out.
All right, if I just speak out, you'll hear it?
And I'll repeat it. I can't
Okay.
hear me now either.
I question the wording of the last few articles,
Yeah.
particularly Article 8 we're talking about. $15,000 or any other sum. And we all voted, any other sum. Could that any other sum, is there a limit on it?
Okay.
Am I allowing
Yeah,
another $1 million?
we just went over that, sir. It's,
I didn't hear you.
okay. Any, can you hear me now?
This is off. This is off. Mine's off.
Or, can you hear me now?
Did we pay the town electrical inspector here?
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. He's questioning the "and or any other sum" that's listed at these spending articles. And what that means is that we are advertising that this is the amount that is being recommended to you, in this case $15,000, $15,000 for Article 8. But by putting "and or any other sum," that allows the town meeting here tonight to amend that to a number that they would prefer, should they prefer to do so. If we didn't have that wordage in there, then it couldn't be amended dollar-wise. But once it's voted on tonight, it's over. It can't be changed by the board later. Whatever is voted on tonight for a dollar sum, that's the sum.
Okay, that just about answers it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments, or discussion under Article 8? All those in favor of Article 8, please indicate by raising your card now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 9.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $100,000 to the Health Insurance Trust Fund.
Second.
Article number 9 have been made and seconded. Finance Committee approved, dealing with $100,000 for the Health Insurance Trust Fund. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article, sir?
Jeff Swan, Franklin Street. I was just curious, why do we have to, are we $100,000 shy in the Health Insurance Trust Fund? This
What?
should be, well, we're transferring money to it, so I'm assuming that there's a lack of funds there. The health fund should be something that's pretty much covered on a regular basis. I'm curious as to why.
Mr. Ward.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, just to explain, the state is requiring that we do a analysis of our other post-employment benefits, what they call it. So health insurance that we provide to retired employees, to do a cost out into the future as to what that service will cost. And mostly it's health insurance, retiree health insurance. So looking forward as part of that study, the town has a large liability in the future, which we think we will not be able to fund on a year-to-year basis. So it's not a mandate yet, but it's been recommended that towns set up a trust fund where they can start saving money to be able to meet that obligation in the future. The town of Clinton has set up that fund, and for the last couple of years, they have put money into that. Although it's $100,000, seems like a lot of money, some towns are doing a lot more because that liability is a staggering amount in the 20s of millions of dollars. So we're hoping that by funding a little bit each year with the compound effect, that in the future, we will be able to have enough money to meet that cost.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions under Article 9, sir?
Mike Roberts, Bourne Street. Quick question. What is the liability?
I don't have the report right in front of me, but I want to say it's somewhere in the $27 million or so.
$27 million and $100,000 a year is going to erode that. What interest rate do you think you'll be getting?
Well, this isn't something that we need for next year or the year after. We're talking down the road. So I think that the standard interest rate on that analysis is about 4% that they're figuring. You know, looking down
So
years down the
is
road.
that liability what the liability is now, or what the anticipated liability is at some time in the future?
I think they look at the anticipated liability in the future. Right.
And
We
do
don't
we
have
know-
that liability. Right now, we're funding it as a pay-as-you-go. So right now, as part of this budget and the employees' contributions, we're funding that service right now. However, we're looking down into the future as more employees live longer and that service is being used and the cost of the service being used, that cost will escalate beyond what the current operating budget can support.
And do you really feel that $100,000 is adequate for, I'm asking your opinion.
Yeah, my opinion is I think it maybe should be more, not necessarily this minute, but I think the selectmen have made a commitment to at least starting to fund it, and I think it's something, in a few years down the road, we would need to look to increase. I think it should be more.
And finally, what do you anticipate the consequences for underfunding this liability?
I think underfunding will be when we get to that break point where we can't fund it, we're either going to, have to dissolve town services to fund that, or we're going to have to come up with an incredible amount of money in a short period of time. So we're trying to look ahead with this.
So wouldn't it be more prudent to be allocating more money now than waiting for the roof to cave in
Yep.
10 years down the line?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 9? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 10.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the administrative bylaws of the town of Clinton to add the following new article for illegal dumping. Mr. Moderator, I move the rest of the question, or the rest of the reading.
Second.
Article number 10 have been made and seconded dealing with a bylaw change for the police department to enforce illegal dumping in the town of Clinton. If you look at the last paragraph of this clause, it says that it would come with a $300 penalty for each offense for illegal dumping. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 10? There being none, we'll take a vote at this time. All in favor of the bylaw change, please indicate by raising your card now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 11.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the administrative bylaws of the town of Clinton by adding the following new article, door-to-door solicitors. Mr. Moderator, I move the rest of the reading.
Second.
Article number 11 have been made and seconded dealing with an administrative bylaw change dealing with peddling and soliciting door-to-door solicitors. These people now, for the most part, except for some exceptions in the back, would have to be registered with the police department before they do such door-to-door solicitation. Questions, comments, or discussion under this article? There being none? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, Krista McGuire, Orange Street. From reading this through, it sounds like it includes kids. Can the Girl Scouts still sell cookies? Can the sports kids still sell their things to raise funds?
Yeah, that's a good question. Under exemptions, there's a clause there, the children under 14 years or younger who solicit under the supervision of an adult, the adult being at least 18, that would not apply to people like that. So Girl Scouts could go sort
What
of
about
around.
high school kids?
Hmm?
I buy stuff from high school sports kids all the time.
It also includes nonprofit youth athletic and educational organizations. So if you look right near the end, there's a whole list of exemptions that apply, that are applied to your typical, solicitors that, children or like that. Even those who make regular visits to your home, those are not barred by this. It's solicitors who have no right to be there. It would have to be licensed by the local police department.
And also, Mr. Moderator, just to also add in that, political candidates or religious organizations, those can't be restricted, so those will be able to go as well, too. So charitable groups, recognized agencies of the town.
Okay. Again, the fine for this, if a person does not register, would be a fine of at least $25, but not more than $100 each and every day the person solicits without a license. Questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
Paul Masalski, 20 Robert Street. I'm just questioning, under the solicit or solicitation, it says seeking to distribute literature except as otherwise exempted. If I was promoting an event or a fundraiser or a business and I wasn't really trying to sell anyone, but I was just promoting an event, is that something I would need to seek, or a service? I mean, I wasn't asking for any money at the time or whatever, I was just giving you a flyer, this is happening. Is that exempt from this? I guess, what is literature? What is defined as literature?
The fine is at least $25, but no more than $100 a day.
What is defined? How do we define
define.
literature?
Okay. The define as opposed to the fine. The best way to look at it is if you look under the exceptions for this article. And if it's not listed there, then it would need to be registered with the police. Any further questions? Sir?
Who's our legal counsel here? Doesn't restricting the, oh, I'm sorry, Mike Roberts, Lawrence Street. Doesn't restricting, putting any restrictions on the dissemination of literature tread on the First Amendment?
Just for clarification too, this bylaw, this proposed bylaw would have to, if it passes town meeting tonight, it then goes to the Attorney General's office for review to see if any provisions of it would impose, restrictions on First Amendment rights. We have had this article preliminarily looked at by the AG, and they didn't find any issues because we have the appropriate exemptions in there. But like I said, if it passes tonight, it still has to go to the AG's office for a formal review, and if they have any issues with it, they'll report back to the town and let us know.
And when it goes to the AG for review, is the types of exemptions, what literature is acceptable and which isn't, is that also going to be presented to the AG, or does that come out afterwards? In other words,
the exemptions are in the language right now. If the AG's, if the AG's office,
that they're not in the language that we have in front of us.
Yeah, they are.
They are?
Yeah.
right, at the end of the article.
Okay.
But if the AG's office, if they're of the opinion that there should be additional exemptions, they will report back to the town and say, the article as written needs further modifications. But at this point, they have done a preliminary review, and they didn't find any issues with the article.
Okay.
Sir?
Jeff Swan, Franklin Street. I just have a question. Given the list of exemptions, what is the article trying to prevent? We've exempted people from giving out religious literature. We prevented charitable organizations. We prevented kids in high school. Allowed. So who is it we're trying to stop? Who are we trying to license? What is the point of this?
Mr. Coyne, we're going to address that right now.
I'm sorry?
I think I can answer some of your questions. My name is Brian Coyne, 66 Fairmont Street. I'm also a lieutenant with the Clinton Police Department. I've spoken with the chief, and I've talked to Attorney Gibbons about this article and asked that the town recommend that we have a bylaw in place for solicitors. It's not for charitable organizations, it's not for children, it's for solicitors that come here from out of town trying to sell goods. I have complaints this thick from people calling. They come into town, they don't check in with the police department, they go door to door. We found them, they have criminal records, we have warrants outstanding for their arrest, and it's been a problem with us. They've been rude to people, they've been trying to get inside of houses. We just want them to check in with the police department. We will give them, as you can read in here, we'll give them IDs. They'll check in with the police, we'll know who they are, we'll know where they are. This isn't an article to limit anybody selling door-to-door cookies for Little League or for Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or anything like that. There are a list of exemptions. The bylaw that we proposed is in place in Marlborough and Leominster and many communities in the area. The Constitution limits First Amendment. We certainly don't want to stop anybody with religious, political, to go door to door, anything like that. So there's also Mass General Law, Chapter 101, Section 34, which basically says what we put in the bylaw. The legislature, the Massachusetts legislature, gives police departments the authority and the towns the authority to come up with a bylaw like this and to license people who go door to door. So we're basically just taking a lot of the language right out of Mass General Law right now. So I hope that answers everybody's questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Coyne.
you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. My name is Christina. I live at 16 Lancaster Road, and I applaud this effort. I often have felt a little insecure in my own home due to people coming in from out of town, and when you ask them for identification, it's not there. I just want to ask if there's anything that could be added to this, or the way it's going to be publicized, because myself, as somebody who is at home, I'd like to know what the license is going to look like, and is there anything in here that kind of adds to that, so that we all know what it looks like, and we all know when somebody's not got the right one.
Mr. Coyne?
This is something we could work on. Some of the other communities in the area, like the city of Marlboro I talked about, they post signs going right into town that say solicitors must check in at the police department. So with available funds, that's something we could look into. I'm looking into ID machines to make the proper IDs, so when people go door to door, you know that they've checked in with the police department, so we can avoid all those problems. So we could post something at the station, something at the town hall, make sure these solicitors know that they're supposed to check in with the police department and be registered. Hopefully that'll stop it. And if we get phone calls like we do now, it gives us a little teeth in the law too. Right now, we can ask them to move along, we can ask them not to be knocking on people's doors at 9 o'clock, but we really can't stop them. This bylaw here will give the police some authority to stop people going door to door at late hours, and convicted felons and whatnot. So hopefully that answers it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, we'll take a vote on Article 11 at this time. All those in favor of Article 11 indicate by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $100,000 to the stabilization fund.
Second.
Article number 12, dealing the sum of $100,000 to be transferred to the stabilization fund. The Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund the sum of $1,676.56. Said sum to be expanded by the Department of Public Works for the following unpaid bills. National Grid.
Second.
Article number 13, dealing with an unpaid bill of $1,676.56 for National Grid. Finance Committee approved. This is an unpaid bill from a prior year requiring a 4/5 vote for passage. Questions, comments, or discussion on the article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $10,436.48. Said sum to be expanded by the Board of Selectmen for the following unpaid bills. National Grid.
Second.
Article number 14, once again, a unpaid bill from a prior year, dealing with a sum of $10,436.48. Finance Committee approved, also requiring a 4/5 vote for passage. Questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
Simple question. Why is it an unpaid bill? Why is it delinquent?
It could be something, our bill just came in late, a bill was overlooked, something that needs to be paid. Once we get into a different fiscal year, it has to go through this process.
And are there any penalties involved with this?
Well, there can be interest if you don't pay it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 15.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,070,000, said sum to be used to supplement the school department for $1 million, council on agent for $28,000, Bigelow Public Library for $21,000, and the Park and Recreation for $21,000, for the department budgets for the fiscal year of 2016, conjunction upon passage of the Proposition 2.5 referendum question under Chapter 59, Section 21C of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Second.
Article number 15 have been made and seconded, dealing with an override question of $1,070,000, $1 million of which is for the school department, $28,000 of which is for the Council on Aging, $21,000 for the Bigelow Public Library, and $21,000 for the Parks and Recreation Commission. This article is Finance Committee approved. It will require a majority vote by hand. If you pass it this evening, it will then go for the second step before passage, which would be an override vote on your town election a week from today. At that point, I'm going to ask, given the nature of the article, and probably a lot of you are here for this, that we limit discussion to no more than 5 minutes per speaker, so that others can get up and speak as well. Is there any, we've already put in motion, questions, comments, or discussion of the article? Sir?
Jim Tumalo, 32 Pondview Drive, member of your Finance Committee. As you know, been throwing around this question for quite a while. I'm just going to give you some basic information. The override will cost the average taxpayer approximately $190, and it'll go up just like regular taxes for the rest of the time you own that piece of property. The override is for basically 8-10 years ago, we had a recession. And a lot of big contracts, paying huge raises to everybody. Those are all paid. What we have to do in those 8 years, and in the last couple of years have been better, is to cut. I mean, the school's the biggest budget, they're gonna take the biggest cut. So, this problem didn't happen this week or last week. It started 8 years ago. And, you know, if you look at a percentage of the budget, these overrides, this is a 12% increase for the Council on Aging. You know, it's a 6% increase for the library, 9% for Parks and Rec, and approximately only 5% for the school, even though that's the biggest number. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit about the school. The school's budget's about $20 million, of which we paid the benefits on top of it. The state of Massachusetts gives us $11.3. That's $11,003,000. Commonwealth of Massachusetts is not going to give the town of Clinton any more money. We proved it the last couple of years. We're stuck. I mean, that's the way we are. Now, our community, that's the basic facts. Now we'll go into the process. 3 years ago, we talked about this override. Nobody was enthused about it. We didn't get it. School struggled. School has a great businessman. School does a lot with what they got, but it's just not enough. I mean, 4 years ago, they had a $450,000 grant from the government. Next year was gone. Town didn't come up with that money. What happens if they don't get this? Class sizes increase, and they're going to tell you more about this. They're going to tell you that, you know, when a young couple comes to town, I want them to look at the school system. I want to be proud of that school system. I'm a native Clintonian, but there's a lot of transplanted Clintonians here. You've been here a few years, you understand how important Clinton is. You go anywhere in the world, but you're still from Clinton, and you'll see that. So I ask that, you know, we spent the time with the school department, spent the time with the selectmen. I'll spend more hours on the school budget than I did the rest of the whole budget. I'm telling you, the school needs a jump start. It's time for you as Clintonians to step up to the plate. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Mariah Hunt-Laguerre. I live at 4 Walden Terrace. I just want to let people know that I understand struggle. We've been struggling since 2008. Most of us in the public sector haven't gotten raises for 2 or 3 years. I want to support the town. I want to support the school. I want everyone to do well, but at what cost? When this override passes, there's no way to get that money back. Every single year after this year, if we voted in, we pay that. And right now, the budget has about, I'm going to summarize, about $200 more in its budget alone. With the override, you have $200 more. So that's $400. Now, I know most of the people in this town are struggling. I know I'm struggling. I know the budget that I have to keep. If I have to keep a budget, I would expect all of the people in town to keep the budget as well. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article, sir?
Jeff Swan, Franklin Street. I do not have kids. I don't use the school system. My mother is a school teacher, though. I'm all for schools. I'm all for public education. I think that we should spend as much money as we possibly can for the kids in this town, without question. However, I have to ask the question, before we go asking the people for more money, have we done this the right way? Like, I'd have to ask the question, how many grants did we file for last year? Anybody know? How many educational grants did we file for? Did we file for a grant for the library? Who for the library? Did we file for a grant for any of these things? Who's supposed to, in this town, to file for the grants?
I can't give you specifics, but I know we do have a economic and development officer, and he, Mr. Duffy, and he does seek grants out and try and obtain them for the town. I can't speak to the school department. I know they do have grant things too, but I don't have specifics on those. If they'd like to explain it, I'd be happy to let them do that.
Well, I just want to make sure that everyone understands my point. I'm all for the money. The problem here is are we being lazy? Grant writing is both tedious, time-consuming, and difficult. However, the people who run those departments, that's actually their job. So my question would be, why can't we, for the one-time expenses, I'm not talking about salaries. You can't pay somebody on a grant because the grant could disappear. But there's a lot of things in that note that are one-time expenses, roof fixes, stuff like that. I don't see anything that says, here's the number of grants we applied for, here's the number we wrote, and here's what we got. So as far as I know, no one's written a grant for any of the money. So instead of doing the hard work and writing the grant, we're going to the people and saying, well, you should pay. No, I think the people who, you guys just voted yourself a raise. I think the people who voted themselves a raise should get up and do more work. I think that's how it's supposed to work.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Nancy Caswell, South Meadow Road. I'm proud to be here tonight. It's my first town meeting, but I have lived here for almost 6 years. I'm a public school teacher. I have a question. What is the school budget? What is the percentage that Clinton now pays above the foundation budget? That's my first question.
What do you mean by foundation budget?
I mean that the state has a rule that each city and town has to provide a certain foundation budget.
Okay.
And so I work in the city of Worcester, and I'm ashamed to say that the city council only provides 0.5% above foundation budgeting. Only 0.5% above what the state expects them to pay. So I'm asking, do we know here what percentage the budget is? Is it just at foundation level, or are we trying to budget above foundation
All right, the
level?
question is, I guess, if I'm hearing it right, is what do we spend above the required amount by the state? Per child?
No, just a percentage, straight percentage.
Across the board.
Does anyone know?
Is there anybody from the school department who would like to answer that?
Mr. Moderator, I think the superintendent of schools might be better prepared to answer that question. But my recollection is that the town of Clinton, in years gone by, has contributed a lot of money over the foundation budget, but the last 3 or 4 years has been just barely over that threshold, just to meet
Just the foundation.
Just a little
So
over.
my second question is, has there ever been an override to Proposition 2.5 in this town previously?
There have been attempts.
There have
yes.
been attempts, but there has never been a successful override.
Not that I remember.
So I would like to submit that the last speaker said that it was the responsibility of the people in the school department to write grants and write grants for other public services. I would like all of you to take a look at this. It is our civic responsibility to support one another and our educational facilities. It's my civic responsibility to be here tonight. That's why I'm here. I'm sad to say I didn't do my duty last year or the year before, but it is not the corporate point, it's the corporate point of view that says all these extra things are supposed to be paid for by charity. No. Foley Stadium in Worcester is now Commerce Stadium. I don't believe in that. I think it should still be Foley Stadium, the property of the people of Worcester. So Clinton Town Hall belongs to Clinton. The people of Clinton need to maybe sacrifice another $190 a year to support their public schools.
Is there any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? If not, we'll go to a vote. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to speak clearer and slower. I did not say anything about charity items. I did not refer to the school in any way as something that wasn't our responsibility. What I clearly stated was that I am all for the money to the school. I'm all for the schools getting all the money possible. I sat here 2 years ago when I came to town and watched somebody vote down putting windows in the school, to my great disappointment. That's not what we're talking about. This is exactly what I feel you guys are letting us down. Because you're making this an argument between the town as, should we give them money or not? That's not the question. The question isn't whether we should fund the school. The question is how we fund the school. And what I clearly stated was, if I'm going to pay you more and more money every year, I expect you to produce more and more for me. That's how that works. I don't expect that every year you go, hey, there's a problem, you should cough up the money. I think you guys should find the money. And I'm not talking about finding the money by cutting another service. I asked the question, I ask it again. What are the number of grants that we applied for last year? No one gave me an answer. What were the number of grants that we got last year? No one gave me an answer. So as far as everyone in this room knows, except for the people who might have written a grant, here's the answer to that. They may have made an effort or they may not. You may be paying $200 more, and it's not the $200, trust me, it's not that I care about. You could be paying $200 more because someone's sitting here on their hands instead of them doing their job and requesting the money from the state. This isn't about the money for the school, it's about the effort being made to raise it. That's what I said.
Mr. Moderator?
Sir. Mr. Tumalo.
Thank you. Terrence Zingano, 26 Front Street. I'm superintendent of schools. That's an excellent question about grants. My SPED director is up in the audience upstairs because she's from a nearby town. And between she and I, we probably write $2 to $5 million worth of grants a year. I had a grant writer, but the position was cut. So, believe me, I don't want to be a bleeding heart here, but I know some people seem to think the schools aren't doing their share, okay? We write as many grants as we can. I was the last official grant writer in the Clinton Public Schools. When I became superintendent 6 years ago, I couldn't afford me anymore. So I canceled my job, I cut my position to save some teachers, and now I'm the grant writer, along with being the superintendent of schools, the curriculum director, the facilities director. I shovel my own snow in the morning because I have a 4-hour-a-day custodian. He comes at night, so therefore when there's a storm, I've got to do the shoveling. 5 years ago, I stopped using my expense account. There's no sense to use it because we don't have any money, so why bother? Right now, we're buying textbooks, and we've decided to buy them on the installment plan. So here's our town buying textbooks, so we're going to get all textbooks. We've been doing this for several years, and we're going to, basically get all the books in and pay for half of them this year and half of them next year. Everybody, the teachers, the staff, they're working hard. We've had wonderful success here at town meeting with warrant articles, and I thank the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. We probably have done $2.5 million of improvements. All of those improvements are brick and mortar. None of them necessarily help me with my test scores and make Clinton a better academic school system, which is what we all want. That's what I want, that's for sure. So we have new windows, we have new doors, we have new sidewalks, we have a new truck, we have asbestos removed, we have a new HVAC system coming in, a new track, a new tennis court. And I ask you, what is that doing to our test scores right now? The only thing that's really going to help us improve educationally is labor, is people. That's what it's all about, the most important thing, people. And we can't get that here on a warrant article. We need that through a budget, and obviously now through an override. So we're doing our share, sir, as much as we possibly can. Clinton, believe it or not, is doing so well in the schools that many of the grants we're not eligible for anymore, because Fitchburg is getting them, and Worcester, and Holyoke, and those systems that are practically shutting down. We've made big improvements, but we still have a long way to go. Thank you.
Mr. Conley.
Mr. Moderator, can you hear me? To answer the gentleman over here's question a little bit further, about 50% of the town's budget is paid for by property taxes. The other 50% is through grants, local aid, state money that this board sitting up here advocates for every opportunity it has with our state officials. Only half of the budget, or approximately $20 million, is funded by the property tax on local taxpayers. In the 30 years of Proposition 2.5, the town of Clinton has never had an override. Never. It's time to stop kicking the can down the street. We can't continue to be the Building 19 of municipal services anymore. It's time to step up. It's time to make an additional sacrifice. The town of Clinton needs it. We wouldn't be here. One of the hardest things in the world to do is get up here and ask the taxpayers to spend more money. That's not a fun thing to do. It's a lot easier to sit as a finance committee or a board of selectmen reviewing budgets and say no. It's our collective wisdom, our collective understanding, knowing the details of the budget and what we've done over the past 30 years, that it's time. We need a little bit of leeway in the levy limit. And if you approve this money tonight and it gets approved at the annual election next week, it's not forever, no matter what anyone tells you. It's up to you people in this room every year to decide. You're the only ones that raise or lower your taxes. You decided on Article 4 how much you were going to spend this year, and at any time in the future, you can spend less or you can spend more. It's always going to be your choice, and I urge you to support this article.
John Woodsmall, 17 James Street. So, we're faced here with something that's been put forward to us by the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, School Committee, Board of Trustees for the Library, Parks and Recs Commission, Council of Aging. They all have some sort of skin in this game. These are the people that we have elected to represent us. That for one reason or another, people feel that these people can lead the town in the right direction. The moderator appoints the FinCom, we elect the Board of Selectmen, we elect library trustees, we elect school committee. These are people who have done this for a lot of years, and they've seen it, and they see what happens to the town. As a politician, I'm sure not one of them wants to increase your taxes and to sit there and advocate for it. It's not easy, and it stinks. But we're now in a situation where we, as a community, need to decide whether we want to take care of ourselves or fall by the wayside and keep on waiting for the state and federal governments to come in and save us. They're not. Federal grants have been cut, state grants have been cut. $96,000 could be out the door tomorrow, after July 1st with the kindergarten grants. Grants aren't going to save us. Volunteers aren't going to save us. People bringing in their own supplies. 3 years ago, after the override failed, all the teachers at the elementary school and middle school were begging parents to bring in reams of paper. Open house, very first thing, everybody bring in a ream of paper, because we don't have any paper for photocopies. We fund this town at the bare bones, and you're now at a point we can do something about it. As they said, it's easy to kick the can down the road. It's going to come back to bite us. We didn't do it 3 years ago. We recovered a little bit, but now we're falling back behind. We talk about resiliency and communities being strong and taking care of themselves. That's what we're at right now. I don't want anybody's taxes to go up. That's the choice we have. Mr. Moderator, move the question.
Okay. There's a motion to move the question. Is there a second to that motion? Okay. Requires a 2/3 vote. What you're voting on now is whether to end debate on the article. All those in favor of ending debate indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. We will now end the debate on Article 15. Thank you. This article approved by your Finance Committee requires just a majority vote by hand. All those in favor of Article 15 as written, please indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Sir.
Mr. Moderator, I move to reconsider Article 15.
Second.
Article number 15, motions are made to reconsider Article 15. If you vote yes, you will vote to reconsider the article that you have just passed. If you vote no, it will remain passed, and there'll be no further discussion of this article during this meeting. All those in favor of reconsidering Article 15, please indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. There'll be no further discussion of Article 15 this evening. Article number 16.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $150,000, said sum to be expanded by the Clinton Public Schools for the purchase of textbooks and technology.
Second.
Article number 16, have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $150,000 for the Clinton Public Schools for the purchase of textbooks and technology. This article is Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none. Take a vote at this time. All in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 17.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 20 of the Massachusetts General Laws the remaining balance from the middle school asbestos abatement project authorized under Article 21 of the 2014 annual town meeting at the Phase 1 middle school HVAC project.
Second.
Article number 17 have been made and seconded, dealing with the middle school asbestos abatement program. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? It is Finance Committee approved, requires a majority vote for passage. Yes, sir.
Patrick Broderick, 44 Hill Street. Just a quick question. Looking at the school department budget for the fiscal year 2016, special needs was at 3.5 million. Last year it was at, this year it was at 6.3, so that's a reduction of about $3 million. The miscellaneous expense transfers for 2015 was 1.7 million. That bumped up to 4.6 million. Is there a reason why that $3 million can't be used to fund any of these expenses that we're talking about?
This was the school budget you're referring to, correct?
School department, special needs, fiscal year 2015, 6.3, just for round numbers, 6.3 million. Fiscal year 2016, 3.5. Now, if you go down to school miscellaneous expenses and transfers, it was in 2015, or is going to be 1.7 million. For 2016, it bumps up to 4.6 million. So what's that $3 million? Why can't we take that money out of the school miscellaneous expenses to be used to pay those bills?
Is there anyone from the school department who could answer that? Jim?
We have a new business manager at the school, and she's reclassified some of these numbers to meet the state report. So all these numbers are reclassified in a different format. I mean, I don't think special ed went down for that, but maybe the transportation for special ed may be in miscellaneous and stuff on the top. We're using a more state-appropriate reporting system, and that's why they changed a little bit. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 17? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 18.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to borrow the sum of $75,000, said sum to be expanded by the Permanent Building Committee for the completion of Phase 1 of the HVAC project at the Clinton Middle School.
Second.
Article number 18 have been made and seconded, dealing with a sum of $75,000 to be expended by the Permanent Building Committee, which you approved a year ago, for the completion of Phase 1 of the HVAC project at the middle school. Finance Committee approved. The borrowing article requires a 2/3 vote for passage. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 19.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to borrow the sum of $646,196.52, said sum to be expended by the Parks and Recreation Commission for the Phase 1 of Savage Field project located on the property dedicated to the active recreation and managed pursuant to Chapter 45, Section 14 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and to fund this appropriation by authorizing the town treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, to borrow up to the said amount and to issue bonds and notes therefore in accordance with Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws or any other enabling authority. Such appropriation and debt and contingent upon passage of the debt exclusion override Proposition 2.5, so called by the voters of the town of Clinton, and further to utilize the Park and Recreation Commission to execute any documents and take any action necessary to apply for and obtain grants or other funding, including and not limited to the Massachusetts Park Grants Program, for the purpose of this article.
Second.
Mr. Moderator?
Is there a second to that motion? Seconded, okay. Article number 19 have been made and seconded, dealing with a sum of $646,196.52 for Phase 1 of the Fuller Field project. Savage Field project, as put forth by the Parks and Recreation Commission. This vote would, if you were to pass it tonight, would also require a debt exclusion vote on the town election next Monday. It is a disapproved article by the Finance Committee and will require a 2/3 vote by ballot for passage.
Mr. Moderator?
Sir.
I just want to confirm that this article, if approved, the money would be expended by the Permanent Building Committee, which the town meeting established by bylaw a year or two ago.
Okay. Yep. Sir.
But they supervise.
Eddie Verrier, 20 Haskell Avenue, Chairman of the Parks and Rec. In the last 10 years, the only major improvement at Savage Field was installing a basketball court. Tonight, we are presenting a plan that hopefully will change all that. Our goal is to make Savage Field into a family-friendly place for all ages to enjoy. We would like to thank the Clinton Little League and the Clinton Softball Association for all their help in maintaining these fields. Without their help, they certainly would not look as good as they do. However, it is not their responsibility of these groups to maintain the fields. I think it is time for the people of Clinton to support us in our efforts to improve one of the only recreational areas in Clinton. Jamie Johnson, a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee and the Clinton Softball Association will speak further on the project. Thank you.
Jamie Johnson, 248 Wilson Street. We've been working very, very hard on this project over the last year. With your generosity, you passed for us to be able to get to this stage right here of all the engineering, soil testing, so forth. What we're looking to do here is pretty much start from the base up. New drainage, new lighting, new fencing, playground area for the kids, picnic pavilion overhead area, concrete skate park, parking for 96 vehicles in the existing outfield behind the fence of the men's softball field. We're really doing this for safety. I've been playing down there since 1985. I still play down there to this day. The grounds are uneven, the lighting is poor, and we all know the deal with the flooding, all right? Every one of those steps has been taken into consideration for this project. It's a great project. If you haven't seen it, or if you haven't had any questions answered, please ask away. We look for your support on this. Thank you very much.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir? Before we start, Holly, in the back, we start getting ready. We'll need to take a ballot vote for this, so if the clerks want to come up forward, we can start that process now in the interest of saving time. Mr. Tumalo.
Jim Tumalo, 32 Pondview Drive, a member of your Finance Committee. Because of the budget and the situation we're in with the school, Finance Committee felt that the project shouldn't go forward at this time. I don't think we're against the project. It's the fact that how much can we ask from the taxpayers? I know this sounds, it's sincere. We realize what it's going to cost. We feel the school's more important, and that's what we need to do first. And we're trying to say, hey, let's table this. They have the plans ready. If something comes up, maybe we can finance it out of the budget or come up with some money. That's our game plan. We feel it's not the time. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Lorraine Liberty from Franklin Street. I just wanted some clarification on the wordage. The appropriation and debt authorization is contingent upon the passage of the override?
Yes. If the town, if you were to pass this article on town meeting tonight, it's already printed to be on the warrant for the annual town election next Monday. So if it's approved tonight, it's gonna be on there anyway, but it'll be a moot issue unless you pass it tonight. If you pass it tonight, it will also need to be passed at the town election next Monday for final passage.
And I understand that we're voting to put this on the ballot. I don't understand why.
Well, you're voting to approve it, and then if it's approved, it's gonna be on the ballot anyway, it's already printed. But if it's a moot issue unless you pass it tonight.
So, but what, I don't understand, why does this, I don't understand why it says this is dependent on the override? I don't understand
Yeah,
what this.
to pass this article, it's a two-step process. One is you need to pass it at town meeting.
Right.
And two, you have to pass it at a town-wide election.
No, I understand that. That's for, I get it. You have to pass it here, and you have to pass it on the ballot. But why is this, I don't understand why it says that the Proposition 2 override is listed as part of the exclusion for this particular thing.
This is actually a debt exclusion. Like the moderator said, it's a two-step process. This is a debt exclusion tonight, but if you vote for this article tonight, that's just the appropriation. The town meeting is appropriating the money for this project, but it's subject to a debt exclusion override, which will take place at next week's election. So similar to the school Proposition 2.5, two separate questions. The school Proposition 2.5 override that appropriation was just voted on and passed by town meeting. That's a separate ballot question next week. This Parks and Rec, which is a debt exclusion, is a little bit different. It's not a permanent increase in your levy.
So Proposition 2.5 is more than one thing?
Yeah, so on the ballot next week, there'll be the school 2.5 proposition override that was just voted on. If this passes, what's gonna be on the ballot, no matter what, you'll have this Parks and Rec debt exclusion override. That'll be on the ballot also. It's two separate votes.
Oh, so it's two separate overrides that just fall under the same Prop 2.5?
Right. And one is a 2.5 override, one is a 2.5 debt exclusion. The Parks and Rec is a debt exclusion, so while they both fall in the 2.5 guidelines, the debt exclusion is somewhat different because it's not a permanent increase in the levy amount.
So it's not it's not annual, it's not annualized, it's just a one-time thing?
Well, until the project is completed.
Okay.
So in other words, once that debt is paid for, that limit drops. Unlike the school 2.5, that if that passes, that levy increases and stays increased forever. But as someone mentioned, doesn't mean you have to use it every year, it still has to get appropriated every year.
Yeah, I've never been given money that I haven't used.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir?
Hi, William Latimer, 38 Low Street.
Speak a little louder, sir.
William Latimer, 38 Low Street. I have two questions. Number one, we've just put $1 million addition on us. The Recreation Department says that they've applied for a whole bunch of grants. Are we able to say, to make this, are we able to make this contingent on receiving 90% of the funding in grants?
Be right with you. Because it's a two-step process and the wording has to be the same, you could not amend it. It would invalidate it. However, if the grant money is received by the town, then they would not have to appropriate the rest of the money, because the grant money would offset that.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, I have a copy of the Clinton 2013 Open Space Update. I think it's the draft map. one of the items on there, it's actually an error, the wording. The Lancaster Mill Rail Trail, continue working to develop a multipurpose trail along the railroad spur that extends from Water Street along the Vale Street Playground, Savage Field, to the Clinton Prairie Bluff. So the error there is it saying extending from Water Street on the north side alongside the playground and then back to the Prairie Bluff. It actually the intention was to go south and eventually link up with the proposed Mass Central Rail Trail to be a link up to from the Prairie Bluff and the northeast side of town. It looks to me from the plans I've seen, I'm afraid I've not sat down with anybody from Parks and Rec, but it looks to me as if this plan will be taking over the land of the rail line alongside the playing fields. So there would not be then room for this.
Okay, well, if that's true, if it's not town-owned land, that would obviously be a problem at some point. It would come up. I don't think the town is prepared to address that this evening, but that's something that may, if that's the case, be addressed later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Sir?
Mike Roberts, Bourne Street. A couple of questions for the proponents of this project. While I appreciate that in your handout that it says that the project will not affect the floodplain, would not the floodplain affect the project? And to that end, since during the flood, Savage Field was several feet underwater, I'm curious as to how drainage improvements would affect that. And in the event that this project does go through and there's a flood, will you have flood insurance? Thank you.
Would anybody from Parks and Rec like to address those issues? He can answer the question only, yes.
Good evening. My name is Bill Seymour. I'm the Director of Civil Engineering for Gale Associates and have been your project manager, and thank you for that opportunity. The gentleman is correct. First of all, let me address the previous question. There is no use made of the rail right-of-way that would preclude the development of a rail trail connection in the future. The second gentleman's question with regard to the floodplain, he's absolutely correct. There is nothing in the project that changes the flood storage capability of that parcel. It's against the law to do so. On the other hand, there are distinct drainage improvements in the fields that, although they may be inundated, we've not been able to raise their elevation. There are things within the project that allow the fields to be more stable under the flooded condition and to resolve the flood issues more quickly. A much more open graded root zone, a more granular material, much more robust under drainage system. The parking lot is pervious pavement. We've actually decreased the amount of impervious area in the park over what is there today by removing all of the tennis court pavement and by replacing it with a pervious asphalt in the proposed parking area. Today, the park is not in compliance with stormwater management policy. Today, there is a lot of runoff, siltation, and erosion that are making its way to the riverfront area. The proposed improvements in rebuilding the fields and improving the drainage performance and the fine grading, and as the gentleman pointed out, there are significant safety issues that are resolved by virtue of resolving the fine grading and improving the grading of the fields. It will respond to a flood condition more favorably than today, but we can't elevate the fields out of the flood zone, thereby exacerbating flooding conditions downstream.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Harold Naughton, 13 Haskell Ave, I'm your state rep. Separate but complementary to this project, since the great floods of several years ago, my office, along with other state officials, have been quietly working with the MWRA, DEP, DCR, and the National Park Service further north on the Nashua for flood remediation, for cleanup of the Nashua River and the Old Town Beach. I was successful with my colleagues in the legislature last year to have $2.5 million appropriated in the last environmental bond bill, which we've started working to, basically starting at the old Clinton Town Beach, to recreate some level of beach there, maybe a park. It's still being worked on. The footprint of the old town beach isn't there anymore because they created drainage ponds there, but there's something left there, and the goal is to, from there, down the rest of the river, down Green Street, behind High Street, behind Worcester Street, to clean up the river and thus create flood remediation, but also to beautify the river and create a river walk, a riverway that would be complementary to these walkways we've heard talking about. I think would be separate but be complementary to this project. So the goal would be, in addition to what they're doing with this project, for the state to be stepping in to prevent any further flooding such as we've seen in the past few years. We've been working on that, or as I said, we're successful in getting $2.5 million to start that project, and meetings are going on as we speak. And I've met both with Senator Markey and Representative Tsongas about any federal help. So the concerns about the flooding along Savage Field, Vale Street, High Street, Elm Street, I'm not going to say they can be put to bed, but they're being worked on and worked on very actively. So I hope just for a matter of information, I hope you can take that into account. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Deborah Grant, 17 Clamshell Road. So for Article 15, they gave us an amount. So they said $190 to the taxpayer. How much is the amount that this would cost the taxpayer? 50, 100? And then I'd like to move the question.
Is there an answer from Parks and Rec? Yes, sir. Thank you.
As of right now, we do have applications for grants that are ready to get sent out. We cannot send those out until we get the town's vote to approve this project. Right now, for phase 1 of the project, we're looking for $646,000. The annual increase to your household is $10.90. Over a 15-year period, it's approximately $163.50. We are going to, if approved, we are going to apply for a park grant, which we could be awarded up to $400,000. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Okay. There is a motion to move the question. Is there a second to that motion? There is. What you are now voting on is whether to end debate on Article 19. All in favor of ending debate indicate by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. We have ended debate on Article 19. Tellers, please come forward. This is a 2/3 by ballot vote approved by the Finance Committee. What I'm going to ask you to do is just sit tight for a moment until the tellers get set up. But coming down the aisles, you should come down this aisle, one in the middle, and one right over here. And then when you go back, go right to the wall and go out. And that way there'll be less confusion, I hope. So you can start coming up the 3 rows now. Get your ballot, have your card stamped, and place it in the box. You need your red card to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, if we all take our seats, please, we'll continue the meeting. We all take our seats, ladies and gentlemen, we can continue this meeting. Okay, the vote on Article 19 was 249 yes votes, 82 no votes. It gives it 75%, and the article is passed. Article number 20.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from the available funds the sum of $9,800, said sum to be expended by the Parks and Recreation for the purchase of a new ride-on mower and mulcher.
Second.
Article number 20 have been made and seconded, dealing the sum of $9,800 for a mower and mulcher for the Parks and Recreation Commission. This article is Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 21.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from the available funds the sum of $6,344, said sum to be expended by the Parks and Recreation Commission for the removal of an oak tree and a sugar maple tree in Central Park.
Second.
Article number 21 have been made and seconded, dealing with $6,344 to remove an oak tree and a sugar maple tree in Central Park. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. 2.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to borrow
Article 27.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Chapter 71, Section 37M of the Massachusetts General Laws so that it may consolidate administrative functions, including but not limited to financial, personal, maintenance, and function of the school committee with those of the town.
Second.
Article number 27, consolidating administrative functions within the town of Clinton for the personnel and maintenance functions of the school committee with those of the town. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 27? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? The article is passed. Article 28.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to ratify a tax agreement between the Board of Selectmen and the Solar Mass Project Management LLC, Series 1 of Seaboard Solar Holden LLC with respect to the personal property located at 100 Adams Road in Clinton.
Second.
Article number 28, dealing with the solar project at 100 Adams Road in Clinton. This deals with the personal property, not property taxes for the company, and I guess would set something up for increasing revenues for that. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Ma'am.
Could you, Ina Purvis of Bourne Street, could you explain what this entails and how much tax
Sure.
concessions we're giving them?
Mr. Gibbons.
Just by way of background, the Massachusetts statute allows generation companies, such as the developer that's installing these solar panels at 100 Adams Road, and the next article, Article 29, is a location at 111 Adams Road. In lieu of paying taxes on personal property, commercial companies are taxed on their personal property. This is not real estate, but just their personal property. So rather than having the Board of Assessors try to come up with a value of these solar panels from year to year, typically those values depreciate, this company instead will pay a fixed fee based upon the megawatts that it sells out into the system. So they'll pay a fixed fee per year, and that fee increases 2% per year to the town. So the revenue to the town will actually increase year to year, depending upon the megawatt usage. So this it really alleviates the need for the Board of Assessors to try to go out there and determine what these panels are worth from year to year, and rather the personal property tax is based upon the megawatt usage. It has been reviewed by the Board of Assessors. They've approved it, and we think it's a good opportunity for the town to get increased revenue as opposed to decreasing revenue as the value of these solar panels decreases.
There we go. Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 28? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 29.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to ratify a tax agreement between the Board of Selectmen and the Solar Mass Project Management LLC, Series 1 of the Board Solar Holden LLC with respect to the personal property located at 111 Adams Road in Clinton.
Second.
Article 29, dealing with the same issue at 111 Adams Road in Clinton, right next door. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 30.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept the private way known as West Ledge Road as a public way in the town of Clinton, as shown on the plan entitled Acceptance Plan of West Ledge Road in Clinton, Mass., subject to the final sign-off of the planning board.
Second.
Article number 30 has been made and seconded, dealing with West Ledge Road off Berlin Street as to be made a public way in the town of Clinton. Questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
Ian LaPointe, 5 West Ledge Road. Just a question that there should be lighting on the road, and I'm not sure if that's been done yet or if it's going to be done after it's been agreed to.
Well, just making it a public way might help in that cause, but this article won't do that. Mr. Ward?
I'll just add a little bit more to that. Part of the approval of the subdivision by the planning board, they did require street lighting to be on that street. So I believe the developer has run the conduit and the bases. However, National Grid will install the lights, but they want an agreement with the town that the town will take over the lights when they accept the road. So at a recent selectmen meeting, the selectmen just agreed to that provision, and we're working with National Grid to set up an installation for the lights. So that is something that is in progress, and that should happen over the near future.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 30? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 31.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Section 11 of Article 1 of the administrative bylaws by striking from Section 11 the last sentence that reads, "There can be no reconsideration of a vote once reconsideration, and when reconsideration has been refused by the meeting, the moderator shall not entertain a motion to reconsider."
Second.
Article number 31 have been made and seconded. Maybe I should explain that a little bit. Your town meeting is run by the bylaws of 1914 as written. Part of that bylaw is the sentence that's listed here to be deleted. There can be no reconsideration of a vote once reconsidered. Right now, under that bylaw, you can only reconsider an article once, and then there can be no further reconsideration of that article. If you choose to delete that sentence, that would allow anyone at any time in the meeting to go back and reconsider an article multiple times and change something that was voted on earlier in the meeting. This article is on your ballot by citizens petition. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
I know it's late, I'll try to be brief. John Martin, 28 Orange Street. Let me provide you with a hypothetical situation. I'll ask everybody to go back to Article 18 in the warrant. Let's assume that it said to borrow $75,000 to complete the HVAC project at Clinton Middle School. It gets voted on and approved. Someone makes a motion to reconsider that article. If that motion to reconsider is turned down, the article can't be opened again. Let's say that you vote to reconsider it. It's reconsidered, voted on again. Again, it's closed. You can't change it after that. Let's fast forward now to Article 26. And let's say Article 26 read to take from available funds $150,000 to consolidate the dispatch centers. Let's say that we disapproved that. Now, think about it. We just approved a borrowing article for $75,000. We just disapproved a take from available funds article for $150,000. We cannot now go back to Article 18 and change it from a borrowing article to a take from available funds. This ties our hands. Moreover, this reconsideration is usually used by town government to tie our hands during the meeting. Let me take you to Article 20. As written, it says, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, transfer from the stabilization fund, or transfer from available funds the sum of yada, yada, yada. When we walked in today, nobody here knew, other than the chairman and possibly the town administrator, if that was going to be a borrowing article, a raise and appropriate article, a transfer from the stabilization fund. Somebody might have been okay with this article if it was a take from available funds, but would turn it down if it was a borrowing article. You might want to be able to go back into the town budget. If you'll recall, when I first got up to speak, go back to the town budget and make a change in the town budget so this wouldn't be a borrowing article and could be a take from available funds. But once you reconsider the town budget, your hands are tied. So, I will address the biggest concern on everybody's mind here, being that we're past 9:30. Yes, if you approve this, you can't just vote on something that you like, make sure it's reconsidered, and walk out the door. You do have to stay for the meeting to make sure your vote's not overturned. I would, however, ask you to consider the following. Men and women, our compatriots, have died, many of them face down in the mud, protecting our right to vote. They gave up all their tomorrows so that we could live in a society that gives us the right to vote. I'd ask you to consider that as part of your duty to their sacrifice. Stay for the entire meeting. Make sure your vote counts and remains counted. I'm going to ask you to please vote to eliminate this sentence from the article. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Conley.
I'm going to urge you to vote against this article. It's late. It's, what is it, 9:30? It's 9:30. I know everyone's tired. Years ago, town meeting wasn't always so friendly and efficient. And many, many times these meetings ran till 11, to 12, to 1, to even 2 o'clock in the morning. And during those times, all kinds of shenanigans went on, changing votes late in the evening or early morning hours. That's why this bylaw was put into effect, so that town meeting, you, the voters, could decide to lock down a vote once you made it. I urge you to continue that, allow that process to continue. You'll always have the vote to reconsider or not. You'll always have that opportunity. It'll always be your decision, and I urge you to vote no on this article. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the town moderator operates from a document called Town Meeting Time, I believe it is. In this document, it gives the moderator the ability to prevent the shenanigans that were just described by having a vote, allowing reconsideration, allowing another reconsideration, but if he feels it is abusive, he can stop the reconsideration or he can refuse to recognize the motion. So there's nothing that, by eliminating this sentence from the bylaw, needs to lead to the chaos that is being described. The town moderator has the ability to control the meeting. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made to move the question. All those in favor of ending debate on this article indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. We will now vote on the article. All those in favor of deleting the sentence from the bylaws as written in your town bylaws and written on your warrant indicate by voting yes with your card at this time. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. The article is defeated.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good night.